What is up, guys? I know you guys aren't used to this. I'm normally accompanied by Mike, and Mike isn't here today. He's at class, so we had a mix-up with scheduling. But I do want to – he did want to say that he is super excited about this, and he just texted me a few minutes ago that he's a little bummed that he's missing out on it. So as you know, guys, here we are with the Sheepdogops podcast. I am Jerry. I'm your normal voice of entertainment here for you. And I'm actually pumped about this. Me and Matt are pretty good friends. So having a chance to actually sit down and talk to him, he's a old country boy, basically from Louisiana, homegrown backwoods kind of country boy. And without further ado, Matt, I'm going to let you give a little introduction about yourself and your background, because obviously you're a Marine and you've got some pretty cool stories that we're going to get into today.
Yeah. My name is Matthew Lemaire, born in Louisiana, Pierre Port. Grew up in a very, very small town. Grew up doing a lot of redneck shit. Done a lot of dumb shit in my life, and I learned from it. It's always good. Went to college for a little bit. Decided what for me, wanted to join the Marine Corps, so I enlisted. From there, I enlisted as an 03. Wanted to be an 03, wanted to be a scout sniper since I was a little kid. Learned how to shoot long range. Got into the Marine Corps. Went to ITB. After ITB, went to the fleet. Took a scout sniper induct. Got in.
What is ITB? Just so for the people who aren't Marines, that way they know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, ITB is Infantry Training Battalion. It's where you go to become a basic. It's comprised of 2 months. The first month you learn how to be a basic rifleman, and they pick their weapons MOSs. You have 0331, machine gunner, a 41, mortarman, 51 assaultman, 52 is an anti-tank. I was an 0352, took a scout sniper induct, became an 0317 after I went to school. From there, continued on my career. Actually got NJP'd. It was a non-judicial punishment for doing a lot of dumb shit.
A lot of people can relate to that. I had a lot of buddies like that. So
yeah, got busted down, lost my MOS. It's a secondary MOS, so it's a privilege to have that MOS. And once you fuck up, they can take it away from you, which is what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm here, getting out in a couple months, ready to start being a civilian again.
That's always fun. I can tell you from my experience that it's not fun at all, actually. Being a civilian sucks. But I can get it. I understand it. So I know I never actually had the privilege of getting to deploy. I got injured beforehand. So my TDYs and the deployments that I was supposed to be on were scheduled, I think it was like a month after I got injured. So they yanked me from everything because of all my medical stuff. But you did have the privilege and you did have the opportunity. And I know you wanted to talk about that a little bit, especially because you have this heart towards people who are trying to get to that position or trying to be involved with the military or even law enforcement and just kind of understanding that concept.
Yeah. I did have the privilege of deploying. It was an experience in itself. A deployment is where you test everything you've ever learned in your career. And we do what's called a workup. A workup is every space in between a deployment. That's where you're going to learn everything your unit does. For myself, it was learning all of my unit's SOPs, all of my platoon's SOPs, squad SOPs, team SOPs, which is standard operating procedures, and what to do in case of X, Y, or Z. Deployments vary in range. It depends on where you're deployed. SOPs are everything your unit does in accordance with X, Y, or Z happening. Like the very basic is contact front, return fire, take cover, return accurate fire.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very easy. So you learn all of that, and the deployment is where you put all those skills into action. What to expect on deployment? Expect every little thing to mean a big thing. Like, you don't clear a corner, you're about to get your ass reamed. It's everything is amplified because it's a test, really.
Well, this is the actual test. This is where you have to take everything that you've learned and everything you've been trained and turn it into reality.
And apply it, exactly. Most of it becomes muscle memory after a point, but you just got to keep training. Your deployments vary in range, 6 months to 9 months. I've heard of them going even longer, as far as 12 and 13 months. It depends on situation dictates, is what we usually call it.
Mm-hmm.
Expect everything to be about operational security. That's basically you not leaking any information to even your loved ones and your family back home about what's going on. You can't really give specifics. It's a struggle because you want to keep your family informed on it. Like, you want to be able to tell them, like, hey, look, I'm going to be in X, Y, and Z for this amount of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to assume everybody's got a tap in the wire.
So did you go as a scout sniper? Is that what you went to?
Correct.
Okay. Now, is that something that you can talk about, or is that something that's still? I know that there's quite a bit of people who have privileged stuff up to a certain amount of time.
I mean, it's not really that big. I was deployed to the Himland province for 9 months. Went there. At first, it started off as reconnaissance. Basically, scout sniper's role is 80% recon, 20% shooting. So you're mainly staring through a glass more times than not. And we were just observing routes that we knew that a platoon or a squad or whatever, or a company was going to be pushing through. Just making sure that the area was safe and that there wasn't anything suspicious going on.
Okay.
After a certain period of time, I think it was like 3 or 4 months, I started actually getting in and rolling with the patrols and in the squads and doing 11 things, which is a basic rifleman.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, I went back into scout sniping. Basically went back on the rooftops, staring down the scopes for the rest of it. Then we got pulled back home.
Well, you made it back with all your digits and all your limbs, and that's always
Correct.
number one on the big hopefully you bring back with you.
Yep.
So outside of that, did you have any actual fun there? Because obviously you're working most of the time, but
yeah. We got a hold to some native alcohol, which I underestimated because I'm pretty good at drinking. Very good at drinking. They had this, I forget the name of it, but they had this drink. It was 12% alcohol by volume. It was like 4 Locos on steroids.
Wow.
And I decided to pound them. And I fell asleep at a very odd place one time, hiding from people, hiding from my chain of command.
Oh.
They found me, took a picture, and they're like, yeah, look at you dumb bastard. That's where the name Cheeky Rafiki came from, because I'm like a monkey. I look like a fucking monkey, and I'm a very cheeky bastard. So,
now my biggest question, because obviously you're going to do some stupid shit. You're out in the middle of nowhere doing God knows what for how long. God knows how long. How does that affect your camaraderie, especially with your group, with your unit, with the people that you're around?
You get really, really close to your buddies. You get, like, you start off as friends, like you start with acquaintances, like you get to the unit, like, hey, what's up, dude? You'll start going through some shit together in, like, training, and, oh, you remember this time? Y'all become buddies. But the deployment's where you make your best of friends. That's where I got a lot of my buddies who I now call a brother to me, because you go through some shit, you go through the shittiest of times, but you come out with it together. And that's where, like, camaraderie is the biggest thing I will miss in the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
Because no matter what I'm going through, no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what, I got a list of contacts on my phone right now that if I felt, hey, man, I'm just not feeling okay, you know, can you come over and talk? 10 to 15 minutes later, somebody's be knocking on my door. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? You good? You good? You want to go talk? Let's go. What do you want to go do? Let's go do something.
Yeah.
So it's a great time.
I miss that. I think that's the biggest thing I miss. Being on the civilian side, having that background in military, you spend so much time with those people. You know, you're spending 12, 14, 16 hours with people, and you just kind of get to that point where they're your family. They're the people that know you the best. They know everything about you. You don't have secrets. You because it's
100%.
all out. You don't have anything better to do but then to talk to each other.
Exactly. Like most of the time we didn't have our phones, so it was you were forced to talk to people, and I feel like that's what's really going south these days because there's so much technology out there. Like, granted, it's great to have. Technology can be used, but when you're fucking face down on your phone 24/7, you're missing a lot of things.
Oh, absolutely. I do the same thing because I've got a lot of friends that are still military. They're still attached to a base, and since I've gotten out, I've been on contracts and I've worked different military stations. I've worked with Army. I've worked with Air Force. I've worked with some Navy. I've done a little bit of everything, and I've had that pleasure and that privilege to still be able to do that. But it's just one of those things you miss because even like my last contract before I started working where I'm working, I was out at Nellis Air Force Base over in Vegas. And it was just bam, it clicked right back at it. You know, I was with a group of guys that were all military. They were all Air Force. So for me, it was real simple. We all fell right into the mold. You got that closeness. You were friends with them. We spent every weekend drinking. You spent every weekend or every other day hanging out with each other. You know, it's just, it made sense. It was easy. So
yeah,
I can totally get that.
100%. It's kind of cool because like even when I'm home on leave, I'll see an old devil dog and we'll sit down and we'll talk, just to talk, and everything just clicks. Y'all two can relate, kind of. Like it depends on the era. Like you find an old Vietnam vet, strap yourself in because it's about to be some wild ass stories. But
you know what? That was my favorite thing though, because I used to like one of the contracts I worked on. They were all old heads. They were all been doing 20 years on that contract, and then they did 20 years in the military before that. So they were all Vietnam vets, and they were all, you know, Desert Storm vets. They were, you know, they left the military before 9/11 happened. So when they tell you stories, they're sitting here telling you how they used to, you know, for us on the flight line, they used to have a beer machine that they'd go over, pay a nickel, and they'd be drinking beers on the flight line while working on jets. Or smoking weed back there, and when they were stationed in Korea or something like that.
The good old days.
Yeah, just because the rules and regulations weren't as tight as they were now, and you don't have as much issues with, especially with social media and things like that, because everything's recorded. I think that's what a lot of kids are having issues with as far as military guys.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few of that. We had a Marine send his dick to some chick, thought he loved her. Turned out she was hassling him for $5,000 10 seconds after he sent that pic.
Damn. That's some savagery stuff right there. That's the problem with it. I've seen that happen. We had a guy who showed up to base, and he was right out the gate, fell in love with this chick, drove all the way over to see her, and she ended up being 16. She threatened him with all sorts of stuff. It was a big old thing. But they got to be careful. You got to protect you got to cover your own ass. CYOA. It's always the number one rule. CYOA.
Protect what you earned.
Yep. So moving forward here, just kind of keeping on track. What other things do you need to expect when you're going to be deployed? Obviously, you have that list of, hey, we need to have everything put together and ready to rock and roll any moment. But as far as knowing ahead of time and being able to kind of give the warning or anything like that.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things I would say is if you're married, get a power of attorney done. Make sure that she can do whatever needs to be done. Like think ahead of everything, like credit card bills, because whenever I deployed, I went ahead and I shut off all my credit cards. The problem with that was none of them got paid because my bank account wouldn't allow them to pull the money out.
Mm-hmm.
So it cut them all off. And so I come back and I'm like, I was 7 months behind on payments. I was like, fuck. Yeah.
And credit card debt, they don't mess around with that. It's not like other things where they'll kind of work with you.
Yeah, like a phone bill. Like that's not bad. Credit cards and stuff like that, it hurts your credit, and that can really fuck you over in the end.
Which is, I think, is most of us walked away with some kind of issue, and it's always a credit, a divorce, or some kind of addiction.
Yeah,
so, whether it be drinking or smoking, I think those are the three. If you don't walk away with at least two of those, then you
didn't really do much.
You didn't do much in the military.
Yeah. I picked up smoking in the military. At first, I started dipping when I was 12, and then here I am, I'm 22 years old, hooked to cigarettes, dip, and alcohol. So now I'm like, well, fuck, I'm broke.
Yeah, no, especially where you're at, it's got to be super expensive out there. So
Yeah, pay almost $6 for a can, almost $10 for a pack.
oof.
Alcohol's cheap though,
Yeah.
$20 for a fifth.
So as far as we keep rolling through this, so you're in the deployment, as you know, as when you're there, and especially if you're married or especially if you're attached to somebody, how is that as far as dealing with that problem? Because I'm assuming you see that a lot, if it wasn't you directly.
It's really hard for them. I wasn't married at the time. I had a fiance at the time, but it was kind of easy for me. For me, I just was so focused on what I was doing that I really didn't bother it. But whenever you get out there, it's really hard for people to put behind them the fact that they have a wife and kid back home and focus on what they're doing. So it's one of those things that you really can't prepare for. You just have to be put into it. If you got a buddy, I would highly suggest talking to him and be like, hey man, are you good? Check it up on people.
No, obviously the whole "I got your six" situation
comes in a hard effect.
That goes across any of this mentality, as it were, the sheepdog mentality, which is that's what this whole thing is about, is those people, is taking care of them, because it's hard to take care of each other sometimes.
Yeah.
Even when we're at our lowest.
Yep.
And I know that's difficult for a lot of people, because everyone has a different low. They have different things they're going through, and you can't always know what's going through someone's head.
Yep.
And so we've got the relationship stuff. We've got the you're getting ready to go. How is it when you're getting prepared to leave, though? Because there's anticipation. You're getting that senioritis situation, but you still got to maintain your composure. And
it's kind of antsy. Like you're kind of ready to go, but then again you're kind of scared. I'm not allowed. I was kind of scared to deploy, but it's again one of those things that you really can't get ready for. You just have to trust in the fact that your leaders trained you, and trust in your leaders, and trust in your boys on your left and right, that everything should be all right. Nothing's really going to bad going to happen.
Yeah. And that's got to be, because you're sitting there. Are there people coming in as you're taking off? Basically,
yeah.
That's just rotating, right? So
sometimes it depends on where they're stationed and where they're from and all that other good jazz. Whenever I deployed, I didn't see anybody coming in. We just left out, and then they were there whenever we arrived, and then they trickled out. I got a chance to talk to a few of them and ask them what it was like and see what all they did, and you kind of learned a little bit, but the time gap is not really much.
Okay. Well, and that's definitely an interesting concept, because for us on the Air Force side, and I didn't get to be a part of this, but I know a lot of it is you've got people kind of kicking you out of your spot as we're also not up front. We don't have to.
Yeah.
We can sit back comfortably in our
chairs and
just relax. That way we can up the crayons and get them where they need to go.
Yeah. Make sure I get my crayons. That's all I need, man. Crayons and a log of dip. I'll be all right.
Crayons and dip. That's what you need to send to the front lines.
That's about it.
So, as far as your deployment went, I know we've talked about this a couple times, and I know you had some shit go down. And
that's correct.
I think that's the best way to call it. Call it as it is. You had some shit go down, and I know that it bothers you, but I know that it's something that you're willing to talk about or like talking about, because someone else may be dealing with the same problem or same issue.
Yeah. So when I was out there, I lost a buddy. I'll spare you all the details. It was I contributed to my fault. Basically, we were on a patrol. Round bounces off, hits my buddy, and I blame myself for it, because circumstances where I feel I turned the wrong way. Instead of turning to him to talk to him, because he was coming up to tell me something, I turned away, and that's when everything went down. The hardest part is just feeling like you did something wrong. And then I had to go home, and I actually met his parents, and I delivered his letter, because we all write letters in case, you know, God forbid, we don't come back. And I delivered his letter to his parents, and I explained everything to him. And I'm not gonna lie, I cried about it as soon as I did. There's times where I do cry about it. There's times where I just sit down and I just cry just because, you know, there'd be a time where I'll be sitting there, I'll be doing something like, I'll be fishing, and I'll be thinking, damn, he should be here. They should be right here with me. And then you just replay everything. It's hard on you.
Now, if obviously I don't want you to make it feel uncomfortable about anything. So if you don't want to answer them, just point blanket at me.
Okay.
But if you were to give advice to somebody else on how to deal with this, or how to kind of walk through this, who hasn't done it before, because obviously not everyone has had that happen to them, or even had people pass away in their lives that were close to them. And with the scenario that happened for you, you're obviously extremely close to them because you're deployed with them. You're spending all your time with them, and those are your boys, those are your brothers. So what advice, or what would you say to someone who may have to go through this later and need to recall something back from it?
Get help. Do not try to just tackle it on your own. Speak to somebody. I don't care who it is. Whoever you hold dear to your heart, talk to somebody. Go see counselors. Go see somebody. Do not try to tackle it on your own, because as soon as you do that, that's where most people fail. It's a tough thing to go through. It's tough to deal with. Seek help. And there's the problem is, I just don't want anybody thinking, oh, I'm less of a man if I seek help. No, you're not. I would think if you said, I have a problem, I need help. One of the Marine Corps leadership traits is know yourself and seek self-improvement. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. If you need to talk to somebody or go get help, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
I think that's a big misconception that the military hasn't addressed, at least from my experience, is this idea of going to mental health and going to people who can assist you with those kind of things, you know?
Correct.
And it's I think the misconception is that it's a career killer. The moment you walk into mental health.
Yeah, they think, oh my God, my entire enlistment's gonna be over. I'm not gonna be able to re-enlist. I want to re-enlist. I want to do another 4, but I don't want to go into mental health and get help because it'll look like I'm not there 100%.
Mm-hmm.
When in all actuality, it's not that way at all. They don't judge you for it. If you're going through shit, go get help. No matter what it is. No matter what it is. If it's bothering you that bad, go get help. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and you know what? And that's a good concept for anything. I think in anything in life, that is a good concept to have, because you have to know your own boundaries. And especially dealing with loss. Loss is one of those things, and everyone deals with it differently and takes it differently. I know that I've lost quite a few people in my life personally. It's never been this kind of drastic event, such as yours, Matt. But I've lost grandfathers and family that was close, that were basically second fathers, or somebody who was extremely close. I spent most of my childhood with them, and you beat yourself up even in those situations. And mine was, I was gone, and his heart stopped and just stopped one day.
Yeah.
And you get a phone call and you're like, well, I wish I'd been there. I should have been there. I could have, nothing I could have done,
My sisters went through that. We were younger. I can't remember the exact age, but my grandfather, me and my little brother, my dad, and went to go see him that day. And my 2 older sisters had decided to stay home because they had to do schoolwork. And he ended up passing away that evening from a heart attack.
Go ahead.
And he passed away from a heart attack that evening, and I remember them 2 beating themselves up, thought about how they should have been there. And it was hard for them, but we kind of bounced back as a family. We bounced off of each other, and we came through it.
That's exactly that. That's the best point right there, is even as a young child or as a kid losing somebody that important to your life, the first thing you do is you reach out to family. And I think that's as far as this whole story goes and what happened to you, I think that's a lesson that everyone can learn, whether you're military, whether you're a police officer, firefighter, paramedic, anyone that's in this category, this first responder or military category,
Yeah.
really needs to look at is that, I need to learn when to reach to my family.
Yeah, learn to reach out. Like, it was a struggle for me at first because I didn't want anybody knowing about it. I didn't want people to look at me differently because of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But in all actuality, whenever I spoke to my dad about it at first, I came out to him about it, and then I came out to my mom, and I came out to the rest of my family, and I learned that, they didn't look at me as a bad person for what had happened. They looked at me as a bad person because I couldn't trust them enough to just come out and tell them what had happened when it first had happened. Whenever I first came home on leave, I came out 6 months afterwards when I actually just broke down one day in my bedroom, and then it revolved into me drinking heavily on the bottle, and me ended up trying to take my own life one day, and it was a bad time. I had a Glock 19. I still have that handgun. I love it to death. I still hold it near and dear to my heart. Racked it back and went to go to town. Pulled the trigger. Nothing happened. Put it down, and it went off when I put it back down. It was a hang fire, essentially, which is where you detonate when you pull the trigger, fire pin hits the primer, and it's just something in the propeller. It's just a slow cooker. And it went off, and my parents found out about it. They immediately made me go get counseling as soon as it happened.
Mm-hmm. I know that's hard to. I know it's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. And in all honesty, for people who are having that same issue or having that same problem, it's probably good for them to hear that they're not the only ones that are dealing with it. And
yeah, you're never alone. Regardless if somebody wants to talk about it or not, you're never alone. Somebody's going through it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that kind of reaches out because we had this whole conversation the other day. Where you were having a rough day, and we were talking about it, and just sometimes you realize there are people out there for you and people that want to help you and want to be part of your life.
Yeah.
Even when you don't think anyone's there for you, and that's my biggest thing to anyone, because I've seen being out in New Mexico, you see a lot of people who commit suicide because they just don't do anything with their life. They sit in the dorm room, or they sit, by themselves, and there's no family, there's no friends around. They don't make any friends. They don't do anything. And we had one of the higher suicide rates for active duty out there because we'd have one a month, basically.
Yeah.
So I totally understand the concept of, hey, if you're listening to this and you have a problem, reach out to somebody. I know that right now Sheepdogops is attempting to reach out to a few vet groups that we want to be able to bring in, so that way we can provide that information for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, Matt, that you can kind of agree with that and concur with that.
100%. I totally agree that there definitely needs to be more resources out there, because there's suicide hotlines and stuff. But let's be honest, not everybody uses that. Sometimes calling through a phone isn't the way to do it. Sometimes you just need to have somebody sit there with you and just talk. And somebody who that you can confide into, that isn't going to look at you differently, or just somebody you can talk to. And they'll just sit there and be quiet and just listen.
And make you feel at home.
Yeah, make you feel at home and make you feel comfortable and try to steer you onto the right path. I hate to say it like that, but it's when you're going down that path where you want to start taking your own life, you're into that bad path. That's never a good thing. Mm-hmm. Suicide doesn't fix anything. Just put your problems off on somebody else. 100%.
Yeah, that's my parents always used to tell me that was a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Correct.
And that's never acceptable, because it really, and it's not that you're weak, and it's not that it's not acceptable. I don't want anyone to think that I'm belittling or putting things down. I've had depression. I've gone through those kind of things also. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone to think that I'm not, or I'm saying that you're weak or anything, because I've been there. I've done that. I've been to those points as well. And it's a matter of realizing that whatever you're going through right now, isn't going to be forever.
No.
It's a hill. Eventually you'll climb that hill and you'll be at the top, but you have to make it through that struggle first.
Yeah.
To make it to the top of your hill. So that way you can conquer the next problem or conquer the next hill or the next mountain or whatever it's going to be in your life. So.
And God doesn't give you anything he doesn't think you can handle.
Absolutely.
I wholeheartedly believe that.
100%. And it couldn't have been said any better. I'm trying to think of, is there anything else that you want to talk about, Matt? Anything you got else on your mind that you want to share with the world? Because I know you don't have a whole lot of business stuff going on or anything like that. So I want to give you an opportunity that if you want.
If you're one of those people that want to join the military and you listen to this to gather experiences and see what it's like, just go out and do it, man. I wouldn't trade my entire experiences in the Marine Corps for anything. I believe that 100%, 150%, that everything that I've been through in the Marine Corps, everything that I've dealt with, everything that I've done, everything that I've got to experience, whether it's from losing somebody to teaching junior Marines how to do things. There's been bad moments, but it's more good moments than not. 150%. Because it's always awesome when you teach a junior Marine how to shoot, and he starts getting it, he starts seeing it, and you see him light up because he's getting it.
Mm-hmm.
Like him making mills, making wind calls, and him just finally succeeding, and him light up because he's doing it. He's finally getting the concept and doing it right. You can't put a price on it.
Absolutely. No, I think that's I think training is probably one of my more favorite things to be doing, because you can see that light bulb click and it just clicks and it's fantastic. So just kind of leading out here because we're starting to run low on time, so I want to make sure that I thank you, Matt, for coming on. Thank you for talking about what you talked about. I know it's not easy, and I appreciate it, and I hope that the big thing for me is if it reaches one person, then it's a success. As long as it reaches one person and one person wants to reach out, you can always email the podcast itself at sheepdogmindset@gmail.com. You ever have a question, ever anything, I've got that email on Super Notify. So anytime anyone sends me an email through there, I'm getting it within moments, and I will respond as quickly as possible in the best manner that I can. I think you've seen that. You've emailed me, or we've emailed back and forth, and I want to make sure that everyone knows that that's prompt. And if I don't have an answer, I don't have what you need, I'm definitely going to get you what you need.
Yeah.
Especially for something like this, especially something as big as this.
Yeah.
Because everyone deals with it, and we see it on a regular basis, whether it be military, whether it be a cop or a firefighter or paramedics even. You see it all the time, and if we can prevent that, then this is a huge success. If it's just at least one person, I think.
Yeah, even if it's just one person who's going through a tough time, and like I love the idea of sheepdog operations. Like it's a great concept. I absolutely love it 100%. And like you're saying, if it reaches just one person, it's a success. Absolutely.
And I know we'll have a bunch of viewers on here, and I know your fan base will be on here. So it'll be exciting. So kind of transitioning. We'll start to transition into the next phase of this, which is basically ending it up. I do want to give. I want to let everyone know that everything that's been provided here and where this has all been started with our whole platform is thanks to Battleraddle. I know Mike isn't here right now to shout that out, but he's been a huge contributor to everything that we're doing here, and to give us the space that we have, to have the merch that we have, to be able to do everything we're doing. It's been fantastic. And just so everyone knows, everything that gets sold, basically any money that's earned from it gets thrown right back into this. So that way we can reach out to more military members, more cops, more first responders, firefighters, everything like that. So that way we can get you guys on here to share your story and to be able to do that. Also, we have different ways to sponsor. If you want to jump in, shoot me an email, let us know, shoot us a message on any of the platforms. I know that Battleraddle is actually having a huge promo code for Mother's Day this Sunday. Sunday, people, it's Sunday, and I know that they try and they'll ship same day for the most part. I know that they're working on that right now. That they try and ship everything same day. So definitely go on there. They've got a 2-for-1 deal right now with the promo code Mother's Day. So just go in there, type that in. Let them know that Sheepdogops sent you in the sales stuff, and they'll definitely hook you up. They'll make sure you're taken care of. As far as Sheepdogops goes, we're still reaching out for people. So if you want to be on here, you want to share your story, you've got anything that you think people need to hear, email me. Email me. I've been reaching out. I've got quite a few people lined up here and there. I know that's how I met Matt, is through some social media contacts, which has been absolutely awesome. And I'm glad that he was willing to come on and talk about what he's had going through his life. And I hope it's healing for you, Matt.
It is.
It gives you that opportunity.
It's a slow process. But I like reaching out to people and letting them know, like, even though it's a shitty situation, but it's nice to be able to be like, just to get it. It feels good to get it off your chest every once in a while.
Absolutely. So. Outside of that, again, my merch on Battleraddle.com. Go check it out. Do what you got to do. If you want to get something, get something. You don't, it's not going to hurt my feelings. But another thing that's coming up is on the 22nd of May, I'll be doing some video stuff and some live streaming stuff for our range day up with NorCal Gun Vault. So if you guys are interested, you can probably check out a few different channels where I'll have that going on, and we'll be hanging out and talking to some pretty cool people and seeing some pretty awesome guns. So it's never a bad day for me, if you ask me. So
get a chance to put hands on a gun. Nice.
I want to thank Mike one more time. I know you're not here, bud. I miss you. I know that you're normally taking notes and you're asking more detailed questions, and I appreciate that, and I'm sorry that you're not here, and I know that you wish you were here because you text me about it. And you're probably texting me right now. Matt, I want to say thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, giving us a little insight onto what's going on, not only in your life, but what other people are going through. It's a huge help, and I really appreciate it. And anytime that you want to be on again, you give me a call or I'll shoot you a text, and we'll get you back on. We'll talk about whatever's going on or whatever you want to talk about. All right?
Sounds good, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right. And then what was that?
I said it feels awesome to be here.
Awesome. And then as we always end this, like we do every single week, remember, don't be the sheep in the fight, be the dog.